Good morning. Welcome to Friday Drop-In Meditation. Good to see there are 5 people here. That's great. So if there's anyone new, what we do in the session 1 hour is first half, the first 20 minutes or so, we do mindfulness meditation. Calm abiding, it's called sometimes concentration meditation, shamatha. So this is just placing the mind on an object, choosing an object, and just resting our mind there. So that's the first stage, and then the second thing, that's called mindfulness, and then the other aspect is introspection, where we're checking to see whether we're actually on the mind, on the object or not. That's called introspection. So that's like just monitoring the progress. And if we've lost our object, we'll come back to, we let go, we notice that we've lost the object and come back to the breath. We usually start with the breath. All right, so we'll come back to that in a minute. I usually start with some words of inspiration from some of our teachers, just a few quotes. So, and also, I know we had great problems last week. Apologies for that. Technical problems. Looks like we're okay this week. If something happens and you lose sight or sound or everything, you can just make a note so we're aware. Just put something in the column where it says say something. But I will keep going because I've been told that sometimes, even though the audience doesn't get the transmission, but it can be recording. And so later on, if you go back onto YouTube, you might get either the whole of the session or more of the session. So that's what happens. Okay, so we're good today. These are some words from Lama Yeshe he calls it inner psychology is the topic. And he's talking about watching the mind, how interesting it is, and how we'll never get bored if we watch our mind. We're actually doing a lot of things at home and perhaps watching TV, perhaps watching too much. But this is what he says about watching the mind. Watching your internal world is much more interesting than watching TV, and certainly more worthwhile. What's more, if you watch your mind with skillful wisdom, you'll never get bored. So he says, when your negative mind arises, instead of being afraid of it or pushing it away, you should examine it more closely. So this is good advice for the next half of that. We're going to do fear, meditation on fear for our second meditation. So good advice. We don't push it away. We look at it closely. So a bit more from Lama Yeshe. Once you realise the true evolution of your mental problems, you'll never blame any other living being for how you feel. That realisation is the beginning of good communication and respect for others. Looking deeply at every aspect of your own mind will help you be more integrated, and you'll see everything more clearly, whereas a partial view of yourself will only make you insecure. So as you become more aware of the nature of your own mind, you'll also be more sensitive to the minds of other people. Meditation helps you understand your mind and put it in order. That's what we're doing, putting our mind in order, taking care of our mind. So he says, to gain an understanding of the totality of your being, you have to look compassionately at your negative characteristics as well as your positive ones. Try not to cover them up, sweep them away, or ignore them. All right. So let's do our mindfulness practice. So we always start off using the breath as the object. That means we're just watching our breathing the breath entering and leaving the body, that without changing it, without interfering, just like a bystander watching something happening, just watching that gentle movement of the body with the breath. So that can be for the whole 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And then today I'm going to just introduce the possibility of, after, say, 10 minutes of breathing meditation, just shifting the object to the thoughts. So this is watching the mind. This is what Lama Zopa says about meditation on the mind. He says, watching the mind can mean watching the thoughts passing through. That's the mental activity. So where instead of using the breath, we're just opening up the thoughts. Well, thoughts come in and let's have a look at you. Or actually allowing thoughts to come in, just as an observer, without getting caught up in them, just watching them. So that's like watching the television of the mind, the internal TV. So whatever it is, could be memory, could be chit-chat, could be some fear, just watching it without engaging. It's best we can not to engage. So the next step after that is to watch the mind looking at the mind. That's the mind looking at the mind. So the mind that's looking at the thoughts. So this mind, Lama Zopa says, is formless, colourless and shapeless, but clearly perceives the object. He says this practice can be it is difficult, but some people are able to do it. He says that Western people, he thinks, will find this particularly difficult. So he says that if it's difficult to just watch the mind itself, just stay with the watching the thoughts or watching the breath, watching the thoughts or watching the breath. And he says this meditation, just where we're watching the thoughts or the breath, calm abiding meditation, brings quietness and peace. After that, after we've quietened our mind, then we can use that quiet mind to discuss Buddhist philosophy, reincarnation, meaning of life, why people suffer. That's analytical meditation, which is what we do in the second half of the hour. All right, so let's begin our mindfulness of practice, starting off with mindfulness of breath. Get comfortable. Find a comfortable position, sitting, lying down in a chair, sitting in a chair or on the floor. We usually start with motivation, just checking our mind. Just first of all acknowledging how wonderful it is that we can spend some time doing some practice, taking care of the mind, putting the mind in order. And even with all the shutdown and all the restrictions, we can still do it. We still have this incredible technology to allow us to communicate, do some practice together. And we're doing all this practice not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all those around us and all sentient beings, all living beings. And we just do the practice without any expectation. Whatever state of mind we're in, we just work with that. That's what we've got. It's our mind. No great ambitions, no goals. And then starting with the body, just bring our awareness into the body, the physical body. making sure we're very comfortable, evenly balanced. Particularly the upper body, the neck and the shoulders relaxed. The eyes can be closed or just gently open, gazing ahead. Softening the muscles around the face and the eyes, those very fine muscles. Lower down, feeling our body connect with the chair or the floor. Feel a gentle pull of gravity on our body into the earth, surrendering to the earth. Allowing ourselves to be held by the earth. With each out breath, have a sense of letting go physically. Have a sense of letting go all the busyness of the mind, the distractions and the obstacles. With each out breath, just feel we're letting go more deeply, relaxing more deeply. And giving more attention to the flow of the breath into the body and out of the body. Feeling the movement of the body with the breath, the natural rhythm of the breath in the body. Just watch. We can observe the breath, either just the movement of the whole body, the widest field, or the abdomen rising and falling, or the sensation at the nostrils. Whatever is the most comfortable position, to focus on the breath. Once we find it, we just come to rest there, rest our mind there. So with mindfulness of the breath, we focus on the breath, and part of the mind also is checking. It's called introspection, monitoring. Are we on the breath or have we wandered off? Quality control. If we notice we've lost the breath, we're in a thought, we're distracted, that's great, we've noticed. That's the practice. Being aware of when we are distracted, letting go of the distraction, and patiently coming back to the breath. Again and again. One breath at a time, full flow of the in-breath, full flow of the out-breath. staying with the breath, or there's the option now of letting go of the breath and refocusing on our thoughts, the activities of the mind, just watching what's happening in the mind. Could be thoughts, memories, feelings, emotions, conversations we've had, images. Just watching the screen, not engaging. Just like a bystander watching a television screen. Not very interested, but just watching. Allowing thoughts to enter the mind, allowing thoughts to leave the mind. To help being aware of our thoughts and letting them go can help to label the thoughts. When you see an action of the mind, give it a quick label and let it go. And let it go. Ah, that's the fear I have of that coming up. Ah, that's that worry I have. That's that memory. Let it go. Label, let it go. Just another thought. The breath is always there to come back to if there's too many thoughts. Come home to the breath. Come home to the breath. So either stay with the breath, stay with observing the thought, the mind that is observing the thoughts, mindfulness of mind, the mind, non-physical, no form, no colour, no taste, just the mind, empty space of the mind, the clean, clear mind. Always come home to the breath if there's any tension, any tightening of the mind. Home to the breath. Just relax and have a break. A sip of tea or whatever. We do in our 1 hour session is always an analytical meditation. That's meditation where we look at a particular topic, aspect of Buddhist philosophy, and then we look at it from various angles and analyze. This is just as much meditation as the breath meditation, calm abiding meditation. Just as important. So one I've chosen is dealing with fear. Why? Obviously very much in the news at the moment. So we haven't done this, I think we've done it once or twice in our Friday classes, regular Friday classes, but it's not, the actual topic of fear doesn't come up a lot in Buddhist psychology. So this one is taken from How to Meditate, Kathleen MacDonald's book, wonderful book. And she does point out that it's not usually discussed a lot in traditional Buddhist psychology. But she observes that it obviously does cause stress and suffering at times, fear. And there's definitely different techniques or approaches to deal with it. And as Mami said in our quote at the beginning, we need to confront these negative emotions. The thing that causes distress, unhappiness, anxiety is a negative emotion. And so what not to do is to just block it, suppress it, pretend it's not happening. Also, Kathleen MacDonald points out that there is some positive types of fear. She says the fear of having an accident makes us drive carefully, using seatbelt, taking precautions. Certainly with the coronavirus, we wash our hands and so physically distance, etc. So we do what we can, and this, of course, is good because it's actually minimising our risk of harm. Also, she says that the fear of death is part of Buddhist meditation, where we bring to mind the certainty that we will all die and the uncertainty of time and death. And then the most important one, that the only thing that will help us, the time of death, is our state of mind, our mind. A healthy fear where we use the fear of death to give us incentive to do some more practice while we've got this body, got this mind, so that we can actually have our mind in a good state at the time of death. Be able to let go. We've actually thought about it and contemplated letting go of everything, including our own body. That is a separate meditation, death meditation. So also a good fear is fear of karmic, fear of our negative karmic actions, knowledge of cause and effect. We know that under the rules of karma that actions of body, speech and mind that harm others or ourselves, negative actions, respectful fear of karma. And but the negative type of that needs to be protected, that wants only what it likes and rejects what it doesn't like. So this irrational, instinctive sense of solid self. The self exists, but it's not this solid self. So that's again a separate meditation, and we use that as a possible type of remedy to fear, to grasping at the dependent nature of self, that there's no solid self to hold on to. So just looking at the practice, So these 4 techniques or 4 aspects we'll consider during the meditation. So we just can bring to mind, perhaps to start the meditation, bring to mind some fear that we might be experiencing now. It could be our health, it could be some other distance without getting caught up. So this is where the breath meditation is a good start to actually spend time into the mind and watching it, just watching it. So just observing and being aware without being caught up in it can help. So, in fact, that can solve the problem, as most great teachers say. Just being aware is liberating. So, but then there's also the great saying by Shantideva, the incredible Indian master: "Can do what we can. If we can't, don't worry, because if we can't fix it, there's nothing we can do." And causing our mind to be upset about something we can't fix is useless, he says. So this is great advice, and one that is honest in reason. And sometimes our irrational fears are much stronger than reason. So, so how the external world's changing constantly, the internal world, our mind's changing constantly as well. Any suffering we have will not last forever. Any pleasure we have won't last forever. So these pain will eventually subside and pleasure will eventually subside. So this is a way of just detaching, which will be very helpful when dealing with fear. And the third one is looking at the wider picture of then all of us, not just us, all beings in samsara will suffer. So this gives a sense of understanding. Negative actions of body, speech, mind causes suffering. Positive actions causes happiness. So this is just a matter of familiarizing ourselves with the rules of karma, cause and effect, and acknowledging what samsara is. Until we become, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, is altruistic motivation. So he says, just if we've got some kind of, he gives the example of public speaking. Many people are very nervous about public speaking. So he says, just by thinking on compassion, okay, having a compassionate motivation. I'm doing this, talking or this action for the benefit of others, and my motive is to help. So people want some help. They don't want my nervousness. They don't want my fear. They just want some help. So I'll give them that. So that's the fourth. And then, of course, I mentioned the first one, which is contemplating the nature of me who is suffering. Can we find the me who's suffering? So if you're familiar with that emptiness meditation, the I, the me who's afraid, is not independent, but dependent on cause and conditions. There's no self-existent no self-existent afraid me. All right, so we'll just give it a go. It's enough talking. Thanks. It's okay. So we just start our practice now on dealing with fear by just starting with the breath. Coming into the breath, returning to it. So we begin our practice on dealing with fear. First of all, bring to mind from afar, using mindfulness to watch whatever it is that we're afraid of in the space of the mind, allowing it to come, not getting caught into it, but watching it dispassionately. Could be just a feeling, an emotion. hard to pinpoint it. Is it healthy, good for you, that's going to improve our life, make us safer? So if it is, having done what we can, and this is nothing we can do to prevent it, there is no point in worrying. Worrying will not help prevent it. This is Shantidev's great wisdom, and all Buddhist masters' wisdom. If you can't change the situation, don't worry. So the second approach to dealing with fear all suffering is impermanent, all fear is impermanent. All positive pleasures of sensory pleasures are impermanent. The physical world is impermanent, economy. So it's a matter of letting go. The biggest impermanence is ourselves, our body. Contemplating the time of death and the fact that we'll have to leave our own body. The biggest kind of separation. Helps to let go. Helps to understand impermanence. So the third aspect related to impermanence is that we are unenlightened at this stage. So we will suffer. We will suffer fears, pain, aging, death. We're in samsara. It's called samsara, conditioned existence, subject to our karmic actions from the past. We do unskillful actions and we suffer, like all beings. This helps develop equanimity, our common humanity. We are all suffering beings. As much as possible by creating positive actions of body, speech and mind, acting compassionately, with wisdom, we'll have positive actions, positive results, less suffering. The more we study the path to enlightenment, practice, meditate, listen, the more we are moving towards enlightenment, out of suffering. Out of fear. A fourth technique suggested by His Holiness the Dalai Lama: meditate more, contemplate more on compassion. Takes our mind off our problems. Thinking of others suffering, wishing they weren't suffering, wishing them happiness. Being concerned with their needs, others' needs, as much as possible, satisfying their needs, giving them what they want. This is compassion, loving kindness. Bodhicitta. Finally, the last method is to meditate on emptiness, teachings on emptiness. Buddhist teachings, compassion and wisdom are the two wings of the bird to enlightenment. Wisdom is understanding emptiness, the fact that nothing exists independently, everything exists dependently on causes and conditions, including the I that is afraid. There's no self-existent afraid me. There's just a label imputed on this collection of physical cause effects, physical aggregates, and the mind. The physical and mental aggregates is me, ever changing. So letting go of this grasping itself, letting go of the I, source of all happiness and success of myself and all other beings. So the conclusion is that our fears are impermanent, we can deal with them, we can face them. We have techniques, we have human brain, human mind, can overcome these fears. Just like all the Buddhists and Bodhisattvas, they have overcome their fears. So I'll just read dedication from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So this is the dedication he gives in his advice on the FPMT website. There's advice from Lama Zopa on how practices do to deal with the coronavirus. And at the end he says, this is a good dedication. He says, due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me, numberless Buddhas, numberless sentient beings, may all wars, famines, sickness, torture, poverty, economic problems in the world, and dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately, and may perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time. May sentient beings in this world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. So dedicating to that. So that's the end of our session. Thanks so much for being here. Great to be here. We'll be back. I'll be back next Monday, next Friday, all going well. So have a peaceful day and a peaceful week. Thank you.